busy with a lot of other matters, we did not establish an investigative committee this year. So I did take on the task of, with staff, developing a draft of the annual charter school report, which is the only report the board is required to submit to the legislature this year. The format of the report is the same as past reports and draws on the annual report submitted by the State Public Charter School Commission, the report that they submit to us. I would like to highlight one significant difference, which is that this report recommends that the legislature establish a task force to re-examine the charter school system holistically in the areas of governance, authority, and accountability. It has been nearly a decade since the charter school system was overhauled, and changes may be necessary to address some of the issues the board has identified over the years. May I get a motion to approve the board's annual report on charter schools, which is attached to my December 16, 2021 memorandum? And then we can discuss it further. Okay, Vice Chair Uemura?
So moved, Chair.
And Board Member Bakarse?
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve our annual report on charter schools that we will be submitting to the legislature. We now can have some discussion. Board Member Uemura?
Once again, I forgot to take my hand down. Apologize.
All right, any other hands up on the charter school report? Okay, seeing none, we are going to take a roll call vote. Vice Chair Uemura?
Aye.
Board Member Asher?
Aye.
Board Member Arkaki?
Aye.
Board Member Bakarse?
Aye.
Board Member Berg?
Aye.
Board Member Fallon?
Aye.
Board Member Nama'u? Board Member Voss?
Aye.
Okay, so that motion has been approved. All right, we are now to the discussion item on our agenda, which is the only discussion item today on the COVID-19 update for the 2021-2020 school year. We are asking for data on positive student and staff cases, status of the school-hosted vaccination sites, status of school-based COVID testing sites, department employee and student vaccination rates, and status of department workforce shortages. Are there any testifiers on this agenda item?
Osa Tui, followed by Sherry Nakamura, Lynn Otaguro, Justin Huey, Susan Piccola Davis. Osa Tui, President, Hawaii State Teachers Association. Osa, can you hear me?
Aloha, Gina.
Aloha, you have 2 minutes. Please proceed.
Mahalo, board and staff, for your assistance in requesting an update on COVID-related matters in our schools. Regular updates to the board and public or via a dashboard similar to that of the Hawaii Department of Education case count webpage helps to improve concerns about transparency and accountability. The Hawaii State Teachers Association maintains its stance that a negotiated memorandum of understanding would increase transparency and accountability. Not shown in the presentation is the most recent uptick in cases, where on December 13th, 2021, there were the most cases reported since the end of September. It is yet to be seen whether the upcoming holiday season, coupled with the arrival of the Omicron variant, will result in a surge in cases once more. After the disruptive Delta surge, has the department done enough to prepare for an Omicron or a new variant surge? Thank you.
Sherry Nakamura, followed by Lynn Otaguro. Sherry, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Mahalo. Aloha, Chair Payne and members of the board. My name is Sherry Nakamura, Director of He'e Coalition. We would like to comment on discussion item 5A. The DOE has presented a lot of information in its memo. but once again, we are not sure what its objectives are or how its actions are designed to achieve its objectives. The Omicron variant is in our community, so more than ever, ensuring health and safety is critical for our students and staff. What is the DOE planning to do if infections start to rise again? One question in our written testimony was about COVID testing. Regular testing is a key preventative measure, yet we only have 60% of our schools participating in COVID testing. Is the DOE planning to aim for a higher percentage of schools to provide testing? Is there a plan to consider a vaccination program for eligible students? One Haiti member asked, does the department have an immediate plan to pivot from all in-person to hybrid instruction as the new variant surges? Another member asked, has the department looked at other successful models like Iolani School to help inform health and safety strategies? We look forward to hearing the department's comments. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Lynn Otaguro, followed by Justin Huey, Susan Piccola Davis. Lynn, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Aloha, Chair Payne and members of the board. I am Lena Tugura, retired teacher. As I mentioned in earlier testimony, while the DOE has taken steps to address COVID-19, in many cases, like COVID testing, the use of resources to improve or monitor ventilation, or in providing PPE, more support is needed. Implementation of the DOE's health and safety measures has not been consistent across the state, and schools differ in their participation in programs and follow through with protocols. I see that myself with the different approaches schools take in informing their school communities about COVID cases on campus. To help, more funding for training and staff to monitor and to support and monitor implementation of health and safety protocols is needed. With the surges of cases, we do not want to be left unready and underprepared. There also needs to be more collaboration and responsiveness with regard to issues of health and safety. When teachers or parents raise concerns, they provide feedback and an opportunity to improve operations. And these concerns need not be identified to a particular school or personnel for proper guidance to be given by the DOE. The DOE should be working with the HSTA, such as on a memorandum of agreement, and with other union staff and concerned families to address issues and assure the public of its commitment and its efforts to make schools safer. Thank you very much.
Justin Huey, followed by Susan Piccola Davis. Justin, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
My name is Justin Huey. I teach third grade special ed teacher at King Kamehameha Third Elementary. Today I was listening to a speech by epidemiologist Eric Von Ding, is senior fellow at the Federation of American Scientists. You should follow him on Twitter at DRERICDING. Summary of his conversation was Omicron is 4 to 6 times more contagious than original COVID strain. It multiplies 3 times faster than Delta. It replicates in the windpipe 7 times faster than the original COVID. Omicron infections are doubling every 2 days in South Africa and Europe. It is already here, and we're seeing a tsunami of infections starting to build. 2 Pfizer shots are only 34% protected from infection. Boosters are given, the booster that's given is 700 to 2,000 antibodies, which is 75% protected from infection from Omicron. So we're going to see a storm of unvaccinated filling up our hospitals again. Omicron is more infectious than measles. Each person infected is likely to infect 20 to 30 others. Next semester, kids are going to come home showing almost no signs of infection and get infected from their overcrowded schools and infect their multi-generational families. I think it's time that we start talking about mandatory vaccinations, not just testing for teachers. I think I put in a request at my school for a full-time nurse so that we can pivot if we have to do testing for all students, and that was denied. That's not in our plan. We don't have a full-time nurse, and I think that during a pandemic, that's what should be. I think that department can do a lot more, and I think we're in trouble. I really feel we need to be looking at testing all students, probably weekly. You guys really need to be keeping your eye on this, and it looks like it's already here. Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Susan Piccola Davis. Chairperson Susan Piccola Davis is not present nor connected. That concludes oral testimony for this agenda item.
Okay, now I'd like to call on Interim Superintendent Keith Hayashi to provide the department's presentation on this matter. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Payne, Vice Chair Uemura, and board members. Keith Hayashi, Interim Superintendent. The board requested an update on the COVID-related data points, including positive student and staff cases, the status of vaccination sites and testing sites, employee vaccination rates, and workforce challenge areas. This information is timely as winter break starts next week, and we know a lot of staff and students may be planning to travel or have family gatherings. We continue to emphasize the importance of staying vigilant and practicing core essential strategies with staff, students, and families. It's important to note that throughout the pandemic, the department's COVID response team has provided support to all schools, complex areas, and state offices. The team also works closely with the Department of Health to implement guidance from DOH and the CDC. For those following along with the slide deck presentation, the slides touch on one big data point for each of the board's questions, while the accompanying memo goes into more detail for each of the board's inquiries. Slide 2 provides an update on the positive cases reported this school year. As of December 6, 2021, we have had 4,400 positive cases among students, staff, and contracted service providers. The case count includes both probable cases, which are cases involving COVID-like symptoms and known exposure, as well as confirmed cases. Confirmed cases are cases with either a positive diagnostic test result, a diagnosis from a licensed healthcare provider, or cases reported by the Department of Health. This reporting protocol is in alignment with the DOH COVID-19 guidance for schools. The department does not disaggregate the number of student and staff cases in our COVID-19 case reporting system. We anticipate this information will be available in the future through the online case reporting tool jointly developed by the department and DOH. COVID cases reported within the department are updated daily on the interactive dashboard on our public website. Our overall case counts are still relatively low given the size of the department. If you track our cases online, you may have seen an increase in the number of positive cases reported by schools this week. Yesterday, for example, we had 21 total cases reported across the entire system, which is up from a daily average of 11.5 cases over the past month. However, we are a system of 200,000 individuals when you count all students and staff. 21 cases amounts to 0.001%. Regardless of the low number, we continue to monitor our case counts closely, and we are in regular contact with the Department of Health. Slide 3 provides an update on school-hosted vaccination sites. Encouraging COVID vaccinations is one of our core essential strategies and part of the board's resolution on reopening schools. As part of this commitment, the department continues to collaborate with DOH and healthcare providers to stand up school-based vaccination clinics for students, staff, and our community members. Since CDC approved Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11 on November 2nd, 2021, the department has prioritized school-based vaccination clinics for this age group. Between November 8th and December 5th, we hosted 134 school-based vaccination clinics for children aged 5 to 11. Through these clinics, 5,223 students aged 5 to 11 were vaccinated. This is a correction of what was printed on the slide. DOH reported 5,415 students received vaccination at the school site. This number included non-public schools. An additional 93 clinics are planned during the month of December. We have also hosted 265 school-based vaccination clinics for students, staff, and community members aged 12 and older. A total of 30,579 vaccine doses were administered for individuals 12 and older at public and charter schools. Planning for vaccination clinics in the new year is ongoing. DOH says it's anticipating an additional 130 school-based clinics to be scheduled between January and March. To provide information to school communities about vaccinations and school-based clinics, the department and DOH also partnered on joint communications in English and other languages through live online webinars, recorded videos, and social media. Slide 4. Slide 4 provides an update on school-based testing sites. The department partnered with DOH and the Pacific Alliance Against COVID-19 to offer free COVID testing for students and staff at 168 of our public and charter schools. A parent or legal guardian consent is required for students under 18 of age to participate. The DOH is currently sponsoring 2 programs: Operation Expanding Testing, or OET, and Epidemiology and Laboratory Capacity, or ELC. OET is a statewide school-based testing program that uses a PCR, polymerase chain reaction, tests analyzed at what's known as a Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments, or CLIA, certified lab. 35% of OET test samples are being analyzed locally at Diagnostic Laboratory Services, Hawaii. The median turnaround time is less than 2 days. For OET tests shipped out of state, the turnaround time is 2 to 3 days for results. The ELC testing program is currently available on neighbor islands through DOH's contract with the National Kidney Foundation. DOH is in the process of selecting a contractor for this program on Oahu. The National Kidney Foundation offers a rapid antigen test with confirmatory PCR for antigen-positive test results. The rapid antigen test results are available within 15 to 30 minutes. The Pacific Alliance Against COVID-19, or PAC, is a collaborative effort between the University of Hawaii and a group of community health centers. PAC offers a rapid antigen test for schools in the Nanakuli, Waianae, Honoka'a, and Kohala complexes. I do want to thank our schools and our partners for this effort. This reflects our collective commitment and dedication to keeping our schools safe and open. Slide 5. Slide 5 is an update on employee and student vaccination rates. As of November 1st, 91% of the department's 21,914 salaried employees were vaccinated. This is an increase from 89% in August 31st. The board also requested an update on plans to collect data on employees who receive COVID-19 booster shots. Under the governor's emergency proclamation, receiving a booster shot is not required to be considered fully vaccinated. However, we do encourage our employees to get the booster shot if and when eligible for added protection. We currently allow leave time during the workday for this. Our Office of Talent Management is also in the process of enhancing our electronic HR system so that employees will be able to add their booster shot information to their vaccination status. We anticipate this upgrade will be completed in the third quarter. In addition to employee vaccination rates, the board had requested an update on student vaccination rates. The department does not require all students to report their vaccination status. There are protocols in place for students to provide proof of vaccination for determining quarantine requirements in close contact situations and for participation in student athletics. But we do not track overall vaccination rates for all students. In these cases, the information is considered protected health information and is treated as such. Slide 6. Slide 6 shows the percentage of teacher positions filled on the first day of each school year for the last 6 years. For school year 2020 and 2021, 90% of special education teaching positions were filled with a teacher who completed a state-approved teacher education program or SATEP. These numbers are up by 2 to 3 points when compared to previous 4 school years. This improvement may be in part to the special education differentials, which are implemented in January 2020. The fill rate for non-special education teachers has remained very consistent at 97% for the past 5 years. Slide 7. Slide 7 is an update on teacher recruitment. So far this school year, a total of 1,096 teachers have been hired, an increase of 39 teachers from the same time last school year. This includes the hiring of teachers for the Office of Curriculum and Instructional Design, State Distance Learning Program, and the Office of Hawaiian Education Distance Learning Program. As noted on the board memo, the Teacher Recruitment Unit encouraged current candidates in the applicant pool and prospective applicants to fill these positions and others throughout the department. Some of these recruitment strategies include rebranding our teacher recruitment materials and launching a new website, teachinhawaii.org. That website had approximately 3,900 unique visitors in the last 2 months. Establishing Aloha ambassadors from amongst our teacher ranks to answer questions from interested candidates and new hires about living and working conditions in the islands. Hosted staff-led webinars on our teacher application process, and working closely with our school administrators to ensure candidates are referred to schools. We do understand that an area of concern has been the lack of substitute teachers. We are happy to report that we've grown our substitute pool by nearly 400 teachers since October. The department worked hard to find solutions to recruit more substitutes, including working with our existing unions, reaching out to the union representing hospitality workers, participating in job fairs, and using targeted advising. We will continue to work to find more permanent solutions. For example, our Office of Talent Management will be reviewing whether substitute compensation is appropriate. Currently, substitute pay is linked to the teacher salary schedule and is based on qualifications. To get a better understanding of why substitute teachers are not accepting jobs, we plan to conduct a survey of substitute teachers. Staffing for student transportation drivers is another area we've been experiencing challenges in this school year. The department contracts 100% of our school bus drivers through private contractors. The driver shortage is a national issue tied to impacts from COVID. Former drivers have found other employment due to the extended time out of work when schools were shut down in distance and or hybrid learning models. More recently, there have been staffing gaps caused by drivers needing to isolate or quarantine due to COVID. As the department manages staffing and works to consolidate routes, priority is given to special education students. As detailed in the memo, several of our short-term solutions proved unsuccessful for various reasons, including requests for assistance to agencies in the public and private sectors. To assist families impacted by canceled routes, we're providing interested Oahu and Hawaii Island families with bus passes for public transportation. About 30 families have opted for this. We're also providing mileage reimbursements to families who qualify for transportation but are driving their child to and from school. About 50 families have taken advantage of this. We continue to dialogue with our bus contractors, lawmakers, and others to find solutions to this challenge. Our bus contractors are participating in job fairs and offering hiring bonuses, relocation incentives, health benefits, and increased wages. Slide 8. Thank you for the opportunity to share these updates. We welcome future opportunities to share additional updates as information becomes available. Deputy Superintendent Unibasami, the Assistant Superintendents, and I stand ready for any questions board members may have related to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith, Interim Superintendent. Hayashi, do we have any comments from board members about this report? Any concerns that you'd like to raise? Give you a minute to digest it. I think we're all looking at Omicron and feeling a lot of twinges about the impacts that we're not sure of. Board Member Voss.
Thanks, Chair. I'll just start things off here because I have two questions I want to ask the superintendent. Superintendent, I strongly support the department's efforts for school vaccination sites, and I thank you and all the people at the school that have done the work to do that. I think it's a great public service. Nonetheless, the numbers are somewhat disappointing. You know, I realize the data is incomplete from about 37 testing sites, but at, you know, a little over 5,400 students vaccinated at 113 sites, that's not even 50 per school. So my first question is, what is the department doing to provide additional information to students and their parents, their families, to encourage them to consider or reconsider getting vaccinated, particularly with the Omicron variant coming?
Thank you very much for the question. We do also have students who have gone to their personal physicians, their primary care physicians for vaccinations. And we don't currently include those numbers because we haven't been asking students for that data. I will be asking Deputy Superintendent Unibasami, who has been leading many of the sites and the responses regarding the discussions regarding testing and vaccinations. Can the board staff please activate Deputy Superintendent? Deputy Superintendent Unibasami, please.
Aloha, and thank you for the question, Board Member Voss. We have been in constant conversation with the Department of Health in terms of the efforts, the new efforts, especially for age 5 through 11, and also ages 12 and above. Basically, the work that we've been doing has really been looking at not only trying to provide access to the vaccination. We know that there's many community sites hosted by private providers that have popped up around the state, and that has been very helpful. Many of our families have gone that way. However, some of our families, we were very well aware of the fact that while they may have wanted the vaccination, they might not have the ways or means of getting to the vaccination sites and or were not aware of it. So as a result of that, very early on, even before the age 5 through 11 vaccination was approved by CDC and FDA, we began planning with the elementary schools, looking for which elementary schools would actually be willing to open sites. And many of them expressed an interest in doing so. In that work, we also worked with DOH and pediatricians to do webinars. I think there were about 6 webinars or videos that we created to help, knowing that parents of especially young children would have lots of questions and maybe the most reluctant in terms of wanting about feeling comfortable about the getting the vaccination for their child. So we did open up took the typical questions we were hearing and shared that with just publicly widespread. Currently, as of this morning too, we've been talking about how do we increase different ways of reaching out to, given what we're getting right now, what are some different ways that we can reach out? And we talked about a group of pediatricians that would have volunteered, in fact, to go into the schools. And we are, DOH is going to be transmitting that list of pediatricians to myself and AS Armstrong. We've also been talking about culturally appropriate communication, the workflow of this effort, and making sure that we continue to keep in mind access. How are we creating access to not only the vaccination itself, but to information? Because we believe that as Omicron is becoming much more prevalent, it's highly transmittable. However, what we were informed, especially this morning, is that with the vaccination and the testing, that efforts that have been done in the state of Hawaii, not just by the DOE, that it has changed the context, and that only time is going to tell us whether or not the Omicron will have impact on our operations. We are taking proactive steps in planning for not only the possible worst case scenario, but also looking at what do we do when we come back from the winter break, and situating ourselves to be prepared for possible things that may happen as a result of that. I hope I answered your question, and I'm ready to do any follow-up.
Right, you did, Deputy Superintendent, and from what you said, I think bringing pediatricians into the schools to provide additional information, particularly at the elementary school level, and can answer those parents' questions is a great idea. Also, culturally appropriate persons, especially in those schools that are dominated by a particular ethnicity, people that they trust from their community. I think that's critical because we need to get more kids vaccinated, and this is. We know that Omicron targets a younger audience. We know that our younger students are at risk, and we need to get more vaccinated. So thank you for those efforts. Very briefly, Superintendent, my other question goes to some of the comments we had from the unions, and we've heard them before. And it's not the board's role to direct you to engage in collective bargaining on any issue. However, the board has consistently said that it is beneficial for the department to maintain good, strong communication with the unions on issues such as COVID and protection, because they may have good ideas, constructive ideas on things that could be done differently. So could you please describe what efforts the department has been doing to reach out to the unions, not just the HSTA, but the HGEA as well as the UPW, to engage in a constructive dialogue to see if things could be improved, particularly if we are going to get a higher infection rate with the Omicron?
Thank you very much for the question, Member Voss. Currently, the Office of Talent Management meets once a month with each of the unions, with HSTA, HGEA, and the UPW, for the unions to bring up concerns with the Office of Talent Management. OTM and I also have been trying to meet once a month collectively with all 3 unions to address any issues collectively. We are in discussions that way, and it has been productive.
Thank you, Superintendent, for the information. I yield, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you for that conversation. Are there others who would like to ask a question or make a comment? Board Member Fallon.
Thank you, Chair Payne. This is just I was looking at the slide on the school by school, or is it complex by complex breakdown of the COVID occurrences confirmed, and it varies. One of the trends is that even though there's variability, there's been a decline. But now with Omicron, I'm just wondering what your thoughts are and any discussions with Department of Health, given the variability of schools in terms of confirmed cases and efforts to prevent cases and also keep kids in school. Should it reach a point of decisions related to switching to another mode like hybrid, do you foresee it being on a school by school basis, given the variability? How might that work in terms of looking forward for the potential and what your options might be? I yield.
Thank you for the question, Member Fallon. Yes, we definitely will continue to work with the Department of Health with guidance and working closely with them. And it would be school by school, looking at each individual situation. I will ask Deputy Superintendent Unibasami to expand on some of the questions that you had. Deputy?
Aloha, Board Member Fallon. And just know that we meet with the Department of Health almost daily, either on testing or vaccination and or on any issues that we're seeing in the news in which we, while it may not be impacting the department yet, wanting to understand it from a focus of what are some things that we need to think about before it actually happens to us. I was recently reminded that when Delta hit, when COVID hit, when Delta hit, we did not have the vaccination and the testing protocols in our schools, and some significant work has been done in this first quarter to ensure that these things are put into place. The the reality, and as if you watch the news and you read the CDC and other reports, is that we will be for probably the new norm. They call it the new normal. We will be living with airborne viruses for the rest for the rest of our lives, probably, and that this is going to trigger a conversation not only nationally or locally, but also globally about public health and what does that look like in the future. Our goal is to engage in that conversation because we do need to start thinking about what does it mean to have a school health system that really is proactive and thoughtful and is able to equitably care for the students and our families and our staff in our schools. And I enter into a weekly session with CDC and other states in looking at the impact of testing and the new virus, just because we need to stay ahead of that. But we do the planning around that. So just know that while there is still some scientific data that needs to be secured and validated around Omicron and the impact on how it's going to affect hospitalization. Is it going to strengthen in terms of the way it impacts different people? That's yet to come. But what we're trying to do is make sure that we have all of the relationships set up so that as we learn more about it, we're also responding to it. And I also want to make sure AS Armstrong, because we can't do this alone. We do it together, and I just want to make sure that AS Armstrong, if there's anything I forgot, okay. And we're yeah, so we're good. I'm not sure if there's a follow-up question, Board Member Fallon.
No, thank you. I was just wondering,
Yeah.
one of the concerns was, are we anticipating and planning for different scenarios? And so thank you for the
Yes.
update. Appreciate it.
And please note, I also want to make this point, is that we have since the beginning of fall had every school has contingency plans. And thank you to Superintendent Hayashi for asking that from every school. The complex area superintendents were in lead of making sure that every school had one, and they reviewed it. And then it went through in the fall, after all the plans were submitted, went through a state review. So we do have contingency plans for every single school. Thank you.
Thank you for that conversation. We have Board Member Nama'u followed by Board Member Asher. Board Member Nama'u, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to ask about the update on the school-based testing sites, that we only have 57% of the schools that are testing. Is there an opportunity to try to increase that? I'm concerned with, Omicron coming on board, if there's the opportunities for the schools to be very proactive with their testing opportunities with the children, with the students. And how are you encouraging them? How are you perhaps I should ask is like, why is there only just above, 50% that are interested in doing the testing model? Are there some challenges there in getting schools to do the testing, and how can we encourage them to do the testing? Because I think that'll be useful if we have to be, if outbreaks are and spiking is happening in our schools, that we're going to be very diligent and proactive to test the students and make sure that everyone's safe or be sent home. Could you address that, please?
Absolutely. So testing is contingent on parent consent. And to start off is that parents need to agree to the testing. We have done what we can to make that accessible. The second thing is that some providers that we've been working with require a minimum number of students or consents in order to set up school-based testing. In lieu of the fact that we knew that there would be some schools that would be challenged by that, by watching the vaccination rates, not only at the school-based vaccination clinics, but also within a community, we knew that there would be certain communities that would be reluctant to participate in any kind of testing, whether it was done at the school or whether it was done in the community. So we did two things, knowing that sometimes people will want testing, but it'll be at the time that maybe they're being impacted by COVID. So one of the things was that Superintendent Hayashi, I can't remember exactly when, but in the fall requested that every single school have OET testing kits on their campus, whether they opened up those packages and set up a testing clinic, because they probably wouldn't have a lot of people saying yes and consenting to having their children tested. He wanted to make sure that there was no delay in getting the supplies to the school, right? We wouldn't see this delay. So the testing kits are at the school sites. The second thing is that I think this morning we're notified. We work with different partners, and two of them that have been offering staffing solutions for our schools, which we really appreciate, is National Kidney Foundation, and the other one, we found that today, the contract is signed, is CVS. We know them as Longstrucks. And CVS has been very proactive in working with our schools pre the contract to set up all of the protocols and the logistics so we can implement as quickly as possible. In that, they've also set up, and thank you, we started this in the summer, where we have voucher systems. So in other words, you don't have to come to the school site to get tested. You can actually go to the local pharmacy, and the voucher is connected to the school code. And so not only will the family get the information about the test results, but so will the school. And we knew that there would be reluctance, especially initially, but we wanted to find other opportunities and ways for us to, when maybe that reluctance was reduced, that we would be able to serve them quickly.
Mahalo for that additional information. I'm glad that you have that new contract. That sounds promising, and hopefully that'll be very useful with the schools.
And can I forgot one more thing, sorry, because this is a really important question, and I don't want to forget this. Well, we knew that certain schools would have difficulty in gaining consent forms, enough consent forms in order to set up a school-based testing. Some of our superintendents, Shantajima in Kambakapale, was the one that first shared this idea with me of while not all of his schools would be opening up testing sites, that they would share testing sites so that the kids would have access to other schools' testing sites. And so it didn't mean that students wouldn't be able to test, but that they might not be testing at their school site. And so there might be staggered schedules, different ways of doing it, might be in different places, but it would still be close by and in the community. Thank you.
Just as a follow-up, this is Catherine Payne. I just wondered, these testing sites are sort of housed at these schools, so they would be testing students on multiple occasions, possibly, or is it just a one-time test?
It could be there were we created some flexible ways for schools to think about this. Some of it could be done, you could pick a day and a certain range of time, and it would be every week. Some schools talked about wanting to set up testing protocols for certain types of events, right? So, as a former high school principal, athletics, proms, banquets, performing arts might be some of those times where we might use that. And so what we wanted to do was make sure that there were different ways that schools could think about how would this tool and this opportunity serve them well. And that discussion, our job at the state level was to create that possibility, but the schools could decide what ways that it made sense to do that, given the capacity not only to implement the testing protocol at the school, because people were still doing their regular job plus this, but then also we also needed to consider the diagnostic part of it, which was beyond our control. Which lab could we get the test to so that it could be analyzed and given and the results given back to the school. And so we tried to set up all of these pieces so that the schools could select based on that information that we gave them.
And if a student has parent permission to be tested, is it required each time the test is given, or is it a blanket, my kid can be tested at any point once the school has this protocol set up?
So the consent for testing is for the individual, so the student, and then even if the protocol changed, the date changed or whatever, it didn't require the school to go get another consent form. If that,
So they could have multiple tests given based on one consent form being filled out.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
That
it
was
would be a nightmare to get a consent form for
Yeah.
every single time you tested a child.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. And we have Shanti Asher and Lila Berg with questions. So Board Member Asher, go ahead. Board Member Asher, are you having trouble with your mic? Try again. Okay, I see your mic is off. Okay, while you're working that out, I'm going to get Board Member Berg to go ahead, and then we'll come back to Board Member Asher.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Phyllis, for your specifics and key.
Losing Board Member Berg too. Maybe Wi-Fi's are. This is why I came into the office to do it, because Wi-Fi is great. Okay, Board Member Berg, are you back? How about Board Member Asher? I think they're both trying to get back in. So let's give them a moment.
Well, that was real.
Okay, you're back. Okay, we don't see you, but we can hear you, Board Member Berg. So go ahead.
Okay, well, I see myself on the layout, but this question, it was thanking Phyllis and Keith for the specifics.
Okay,
You know,
you're back. We see you now.
okay, thank you, thank you. I'm hoping that that was not the universe saying I shouldn't ask this question or make this comment. It's actually building on where I was at my first meeting a couple months ago when I asked you, Keith, about the protocols and how do parents know and how does the public know what's going on. So thank you very much for updating us. The comment I have is, communication is not what we say and what we think we said. It's what other people hear and what they think we said. And that's perception, right? And perception is reality, especially to people who are not necessarily allies, right, of us or the DOE. I mention that because what is your communication, how is your communication department or person using the facts that you're so organized, you have a process, there are alternatives, even this new contract with CVS, how are they using that information to share with the public that the DOE is responsive and it's positive? I heard earlier in all the testimonies from you folks, the word revitalize and renaissance. I think we're at a really, really exciting place where the collaboration that you've evidently organized with pediatricians and all the different role groups and state departments, that I don't remember it ever being done before, and we haven't needed to. So how do you envision at all using the good things that you're doing and the information as a marketing tool for the DOE, to be blunt?
Board Member Berg, I sincerely just thank you for that question, because what I feel is that our communications department branch for the DOE has been outstanding throughout this crisis. Number one of their team members, and we've had multiple team members come through, has sat on our COVID response team from the very beginning. And if it meant being on a late night conference call with principals whose schools were impacted, to sitting in on our planning meetings, they are always there. And when there is a case and a need to communicate, the response team has always had this mission that that when if a school was affected or their operations were disrupted by COVID, and there were additional responsibilities that the state COVID response team would surround that school until they were able to, quote, normalize as much as possible. What that meant for the department's communication team is that from the onset of knowing about a COVID case or a possible COVID case, they helped with all of the communications, whether it's letter writing, e-blasting messages out, putting out, helping the principal craft messages for their school community or for their employees. And they have done that consistently for every single case. And you see in the slideshow, it's 4,400 cases, probable and confirmed. That's a heavy lift for a very small team. The second thing is that we learned, at least I did, they probably knew this from the very beginning, is that most people are getting their information now through social media, right? Social media has taken the place of TV and newspapers and written communication. And so they are very active in monitoring not only social media and the information that's coming through, whether accurate or embellished. And they have also countered in terms of making sure that parents and the community know where to get accurate that information that they can count on. And that's through our website and through our Twitter accounts and our Facebook accounts. The third thing is that they have very generously, again, it's a very small team, work side by side with DOH's team in creating webinars, creating videos, scripting messages that are going out to the general public. And it's not just for the Department of Education community, it's for anyone in the state of Hawaii, because we believe that what happens in the community lands on our doorsteps, and we need to care about that, and we do. And then finally, if you've been watching the series of documentaries that are on I'm not sure what TV show it is, but it's Hawaii News Now. There's a series of documentaries on COVID and how the state of Hawaii has responded to it. Our communications team has been involved in setting that up, scripting it, and working with the news station and also with our partners in making sure that it's well done and that it's accurate. This team, along with the other state offices, have been in my opinion, I couldn't have asked for more dedicated and consistent leadership during a crisis such as this. Thank you for asking that question.
Well, and thank you for your very comprehensive response. And I'm going to encourage also stories that may not be related to COVID. When the crises are there and all the issues, definitely, people need to know. But even something small like, did you know the contract with CVS? Because it builds CVS's public relations image as well. And just giving a little more hope and a little more levity and light to the DOE, not just the problems. Even some of the activities, I think, and building on Lynn Fallon's, on Lynn's comment about celebrating. That's a really serious word, but we can certainly acknowledge. And you know, in the public relations field, it's the drip, drip, drip. So just a thought, because I think there's some really positive things that are going on too that were triggered by COVID, but are not necessarily COVID related, if you know what I mean. They're not directly.
Yeah. And they're equally good at that. I think they've done an outstanding job. You know, I constantly send them texts about this will make people smile. And it's really, you know, trying to find these small stories, but significant stories. And schools themselves, because they live it daily, they might not even recognize how special it is. And so when we see it, we try to take pictures of it and send it to the comms office, and the comms has always been very responsive about taking those stories and making sure that others know about it, right? Beyond that one school and that one community. And I don't know, Superintendent, if you want to join in on this, because I know that you work very closely with our comms department.
I think,
Thank you, Deputy. I mean, yeah, I cannot echo. I echo Deputy's comments, and I can't say enough about our communications department and the work that they do. And we are also very proud of them. So again, thank you, Member Berg, for asking the question.
yes, and would you send us a little smile once in a while?
Okay.
No, I mean, seriously, we can
Yes,
read
we
it in
will.
the paper and all that, but, with the busy schedule of everyone on screen, we don't search Facebook for something positive. We get hit when it's negative. So if you could send us some of those articles once in a while, we'd appreciate it.
We'll do that. Most definitely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Board Member Asher, were you able to get your mic working? Let's hear
Is it
from you.
working now?
Yes, I hear
All
you.
right. Well, thank you very much. Sorry about that. I wanted to say that I don't have question. I just have comments, and they may be repeated because I didn't really hear all of Board Member Berg's comments. But I just wanted to, Superintendent, I want to comment your stellar leadership because you've only assumed this role for a few months. And I'm seeing so much efforts on the ground making things happen, not only for, to address learning loss, but in having contingency plans and 91% of vaccination, that is very commendable. And I'm seeing that while our vaccination rates for our kids, our keikis, are still lower than expected, I think these are things that doesn't happen overnight. And to ensure that we remain optimistic and feel for peace of mind, I'm seeing all this additional efforts to include community health centers, UH, and all this other culturally appropriate measures that you and your teams are taking to improve access and doing whatever you can to make sure that we continue to increase our vaccination rates. And while we spoke about part-time teachers earlier, I also wanted to just, add a comment that increasing their pay rate has a relevancy to building and improving our communication to our marginalized communities, because with the hiring of additional PTTs, they become an added voice, an added bridge to these communities. So I just wanted to, comment all this work. While it is not yet at a rate that we are hoping for, it is moving. And I just wanted to, applaud all of you for doing all of this. It is overwhelming work, but with all this additional efforts to ensure that we are addressing gaps and we're not leaving anyone behind, I want to thank you. So that's all I wanted to say. And I stand by to support you. And I'm making these comments not only from listening to principals' testimonies previously, but as a board member doing school visits. I've seen so much happening on the ground in front of my eyes. So I want to thank you. And I'm here if there is any way I can support in just getting all this great information out to the community. I stand by, ready to help. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Asher, for that very positive comment. Thank you. It definitely is a team effort in the department and at all levels, at the state office, the complex area, and at schools. And it's one of the very reassuring things, as I go out, I can't say it enough, as we go out and visit schools, we see the hard work of everyone, teachers, administrators, classified staff, at the school level, complex area, and state offices, really working to move things forward in the department, all in the name of supporting our students. And not only within the department, but across agencies. statewide, for example, like the Department of Health, working very closely with us and providing that support, to the point where we can pick up a phone and just make a phone call and, we're communicating with each other. So thank you very much for recognizing the efforts of everyone in the department, because we are working very hard. Mahalo for that.
Okay, any other board member comments here? If not, thank you very much, Superintendent, for the report, and thank you, board members, for your questions and your comments. I do think we're going to be staying tuned to this issue because it's a hot one as we move forward with this new variant and how it will affect us. Certainly hoping that we'll be able to slide through it with as little disruption as possible. But thank you to you and your team for the work that you're doing around this. And with that, we are going to move on to the final item on our agenda, which is the late public testimony. Any members of the public who missed their opportunity to testify earlier on the agenda, or those who signed up and were not in attendance or who had technical difficulties or signed up late, any of these individuals may testify now. Do we have anyone?
H. Mitchell Dolier, Hawaii State Charter School Commission, Agenda Item 3C. Mr. Dolier, can you hear me? Chair Payne, Mr. Dolier is not connected nor present. Moving on. Susan Piccola Davis, Agenda Item 3D. Susan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Please proceed. You
I
have
know
2
that
minutes.
you stated that I'm speaking to
Agenda Item 3D,
D,
Delta.
Delta.
Mm-hmm.
I already testified on that. Really, I did. I only said one sentence. I got disconnected on 4A.
I have you for 4A as well.
So,
Please proceed.
pardon me?
Please proceed.
For
On
4A, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I apologize. Somehow I was disconnected from the meeting when Gina called on me. And I wanted to say thank you to Lynn Otaguro for reminding us of the board member Umamora's wise suggestion for the board to approve the fiscal year 21-22 financial plan and delay approval of the financial plans for fiscal year 22-23 and 23-24 until more detail was provided. And I hope I'm saying it correctly. The SAC and FIC meeting again had a time issue. I say that because towards the end, when board member Unmore posed that alternative, and I was listening at home, and I didn't hear anybody make any comments. They may have nodded their heads, but I didn't see that to what he said. So in my opinion, I thought he was intentionally ignored. He could have put another motion on the floor indicating his alternative, forcing the committee to listen. It would not have stopped or delayed any money moving to the schools for this current fiscal year. Thank you.
Julie Reyes Ora, Agenda Item 4A. Julie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Please proceed. You have 2 minutes.
Thanks. My name is Julie Reyes Ora. I'm a math teacher in Nanakuli and HSTA Leeward president. I know the ESSER plan has already passed, but the plan is still not good enough. In the memo from Interim Superintendent Keith Hayashi to Student Achievement Committee Chair Kili Namau, He lists arguments against the recommendation to approve the ESSER spending by saying, some individuals or organizations may also want the department to recruit more personnel to provide assistance to teachers, expand mental health supports for students and staff, and fill vacancies. Later in the memo, he states possible reactions from the public and others, quote, the proposed educational and fiscal plans do not directly relieve the undue stress on the department's employees caused by the ongoing pandemic. But why not address with a laser focus the issue of teacher shortage? Let's do something different. Force the department to address staffing issues with this once in a generation funding. Hire people, deal with personnel issues. Your employees are under stress and it is affecting their lives personally and professionally. They have asked for help. At the very least, relieve extraneous duties from teachers so they can teach. Start there. There are things that we can do and should try to do with ESSER. Listen to the options given by testifiers. I've also heard the interim CAS from Nanakuli Waianae Complex talk about my school at the 9:30 meeting, and specifically my department. I am the math department head at Nanakuli. Let me give you an example of what happened at my department last year. My teachers were scheduled to be observed around 12 times each last semester by either a mainline consultant or by administrators, with debriefs after the half-hour observations. We were told a sub would take over our class, but almost all of them scheduled debriefs during lunch or after work. I was told we paid $50,000 for this consultant. Is that what we want? For all I know, that's what's in the works with ESSER. If that's the case, thanks, but no thanks. We need increased accountability. The public needs to be confident in the outcomes of our schools, and with that, they need to be confident with the people who run the schools. The DOE needs to tell us specifically how they plan to spend the money in more detail. We all deserve to know. Thank you.
Susan Piccola Davis, Agenda Item 4B, Bravo. Susan, can you hear me?
Yes, and I have decided not to make any testimony on that one. I just couldn't remove my ass.
Susan Piccola Davis, Agenda Item 5A. Susan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Gina. And thank you for all of your time. I know it's been a long day, but I signed up for the presentation on the COVID-19 updates. And I just wanted to have the board look at the case count numbers and look at that chart on page 5. It was alluded that the reason why there were dips in the data was because there were no people, schools weren't reporting on weekends and holidays when positive cases are less likely to report to schools, which was a false assumption because me being OCD, I found that there was a total of 65 days between October 9th and December 6th. There were 16 weekend days. So there were actually 42 regular days of reporting that did not fall on weekend. And I did account for the fall break, the Veteran Day, and the Thanksgiving. So I think you should need an analyst to be able to look at the data and say, let's not just say things out of the air. Let's look at it and see what's going on. The left side of the data shows a bell-shaped curve, which is a normal distribution for histograms. The right-hand side, it's just a bimodal histogram that's not really telling us anything. So I'm going to end on that. Deputy Superintendent responded to a question on contingency plans. And as a thought, I hope there were contingency plans for all schools affected by the fuel spill at Red Hill. All of the schools are not military-based.
Linda Elento, Agenda Item 3B, Bravo. Linda, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Hello. Oh, terrific. I'm Linda Elento. I'm a parent, and Anyway, I wanted to share just a, 2 or 3 things here. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I would like to refer, first of all, to the ESSER educational plan on page 6. As a parent of a child with disabilities who's qualified for both 504 and special education services, it put me into a world of meeting other parents and students with the same experiences. So I have a strong interest in it for myself, but also to help others. Looking at the chart under summary of school year 21-22 official enrollment count, I would like to point out and ask for some specific data under high needs students asterisk. If you look at the asterisk, it references economically disadvantaged, SPED 504, or English language student. And if you look in the chart, and it does not reference section 504. I bring this to your attention because it affects not only the budget, but also policy decisions of the legislature, as well as for you in implementation by the DOE. 504, what does that mean? If you're eligible for special ed, you're automatically have the rights, the civil rights under 504. Certain budget items are provided strictly for special education, but where does 504 fit in? 504, for instance, getting support you might need on a field trip. Support in charter school. Is there a budget for providing 504 services? That's something that needs to be addressed, not only in your budget specifically, but this is an easy place to start, is counting them. And I'm surprised it's not even in your in the chart here. Personally, I would like to know where can I get this information. I appreciate showing us.
Chairperson Payne, that concludes late oral testimony.
Thank you. And I apologize that I missed the raise hand of a board member, our student representative, Kayla, and I want to give her a chance to speak now. And
Oh, that's okay. No, Chair Payne, you actually touched upon my question regarding the school-based COVID testing. I was just gonna ask Deputy Uwasami to like describe a typical system, but she touched upon that. But thank you so much.
yeah, I think we both had trouble with the raised hand icon, so I'm sorry that I missed your earlier hand, but thank you. We always welcome your comments. That being said, we have no more testimony, and with the meeting is now adjourned at 4:54 p.m. Aloha, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to all. Bill,